Brazil is among the largest nations on Earth, yet when European settlers first arrived, the original plan was for its borders to look quite different. So how did Brazil end up being so massive? How did its territory expand so far? When Christopher Columbus returned from his voyage to the New World, he arrived in Lisbon. Since he had previously asked the Portuguese crown to support his expedition, they quickly realized his return meant he had discovered a route, supposedly, to Asia. Of course, it was a new continent, though no one knew that at the time. The Portuguese quickly organized a fleet to head there and claim land. Spain, alarmed by this, reacted the only way it could. They reported Portugal's actions to the Pope. Wanting to avoid a conflict between two Catholic powers, the Pope issued a decree dividing the world between them using a vertical demarcation line. This line granted Portugal only a narrow portion of land in South America. In 1494, a year later, Spain and Portugal renegotiated their deal, slightly enlarging Portugal's zone. Portugal mostly stayed within its assigned boundaries, and both empires coexisted relatively peacefully, until 1580. That year, a succession crisis led to the Portuguese crown falling into the hands of the Spanish king. With both countries now ruled by the same monarch, territorial disputes lost importance. That status quo held until the early 1600s, when the Dutch entered the picture. At that time, the Dutch were in rebellion against Spain. Previously, the Portuguese had welcomed Dutch merchants in Brazil, but once war resumed between the Netherlands and Spain, the king barred Dutch access. The Dutch, unwilling to accept this, simply sailed to Brazil and seized territory, declaring it New Holland. However, their control didn't last long. When Portugal regained independence from Spain, it quickly reclaimed the area. Eager for more resources, the Portuguese then expanded inland, searching for gold and enslaved labor. These ambitions pushed their territory westward and southward. Naturally, Spain objected to this growth. In 1750, both sides met again and revised their agreement. Portugal was granted a vast new area in return for ceding a different region to Spain. Although it seemed like Spain was giving up a lot, the land was mostly dense jungle and of little economic value. Furthermore, it was a hub for illegal trade, which Spain wanted to curb. Both empires suffered greatly during the Napoleonic Wars. Spain's power weakened dramatically, and the Portuguese royal family even relocated to Brazil. As Spanish control in the Americas faded, parts of the continent moved to form independent republics. Portugal saw this as a chance to act and invaded disputed lands in 1817. These territories became part of what was soon to be an independent Brazil. Still, this wasn't permanent. Britain, aiming to maintain friendly ties with Buenos Aires, which also claimed the territory, intervened. To avoid conflict and protect trade, all sides agreed in 1828 that the area would become the sovereign nation of Uruguay. Throughout the 19th century, Brazil settled its remaining border issues with neighboring countries. One last dispute lingered over a region claimed by both France and Brazil. Neither had enforced strong control, but in 1895, French forces entered the area only to be pushed back. To prevent escalation, the matter was sent to international arbitration, which ultimately favored Brazil. That was the final significant adjustment to Brazil's borders, and that's how the country came to occupy the vast territory we see today.